I think that they see it as politically advantageous to have a shutdown.
At the end of the week, Washington empties out fast. Lawmakers, staffers, they're all heading home. But not before they stop here.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Punchbowl News Townhouse.
Thank you for tuning in last week for our interview with Speaker Mike Johnson.
We have Senate Majority Leader John Thune with us today. We will talk about all the major issues facing Congress during this very busy work period.
And we'll also talk about the horrific assassination of conservative leader Charlie Kirk and the deteriorating political discourse in America and what could be done about it.
Also, we'll be joined by Punchbowl News' own Andrew Desiderio and Annie Carney of the New York Times for their takeaways. But right before that, a quick word from our presenting sponsor, Meta. Meta is investing in American innovation, and through its data centers has supported tens of thousands of construction jobs across the country, boosting local economies and investing in communities. Because American progress starts with people. Well, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Senate Majority Leader John Thune of South Dakota.
The Lesser Dakota.
As I often, literally.
Easy, girl.
Every
Easy.
time we do
Don't
these.
get that going. Yeah.
All right. Well, we are starting out on a somber note this morning. We want to start by acknowledging the horrific news yesterday about the death of Charlie Kirk, the 31-year-old founder of Turning Point USA and a close ally of President Donald Trump. He was fatally shot during an event at Utah Valley University in Utah. Senator Thune, give us your reaction to this. Where do we go from here? I mean, there's just been we wrote about it this morning, such a horrific rise in political violence that we've seen over the past several years.
Yeah. Well, that obviously was very shocking and very sad. And no matter what side of the political aisle you sit on, everybody just laments, that sort of thing happening. And I think it is a reminder that these are not normal times. Obviously, people feel very deeply and strongly. There's a lot of division, politically speaking, in the country, and and people feel strongly, but they ought to be able to confine that to the ways in which, under our Constitution, we can express that, through speech and in assembly and all those sorts of things. That the protections that we have in this country enable people to make their voices heard in a way that doesn't include violence. So there's no place ever for violence. And this is just yet another sad occurrence. And I think it's incumbent on all of us to do what we can, people who are in public office and people who aren't, people who are activists, people who are engaged on the issues of the day and feel passionately. And a lot of people do, but they need to express that in ways that are civil and don't resort to violence.
Speaker Johnson said this morning, he said a lot over the last couple of days, weeks, we're all in this together. People have to remember, this is all of our country, and it's incumbent upon us to lower the temperature. And I hope we do. This is also the 24th anniversary of September 11th. You were in the House at the time, and a lot has changed in the last nearly quarter century, which is crazy to think about. It's been 24 years since September 11th. You're a member of the Gang of Eight. You are involved in these issues and keeping America safe, keeping America secure. What keeps you up at night now? What are the issues you're most focused on now in this space?
Well, I think that, the evolving, sort of methods of warfare, it's constantly changing and it's way more high tech. And, you're seeing now the drone activity, both drone and anti-drone. And so warfare is evolving and changing. I think the traditional things that you prepare for when it comes to deterrence, and I'm a big believer in peace through strength. That was kind of the Reagan model. And I always think that the best way to deter bad behavior is to be strong, and that it's not our strength that, that is attracted to our adversaries. It's our weakness. And so I think you have to maintain strength, but what that looks like is changing. And I think you have to evolve with it. And there's so many hot spots in the world today as you think about, what are the threats to the homeland? What are the threats to Americans and other places around the world? Thinking through what's the best way to deter that bad behavior. And I still think that a strong America is the best way to do that. And then allies. I'm a big believer in allies. And I think that NATO, other allies around the world, people who share our view of freedom and democracy, we need to be working with them And because I think alliances also are a deterrent to bad behavior.
I want to move on to funding, the big issue of the day that we've been writing about for many weeks now, probably more than any other publication. Democrats tell us
Better or worse.
they have a tough time reading you. You're clearly moving toward passing a CR until November or December, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think right now it looks like the House and the White House are kind of trending toward a pre-Thanksgiving that gives us another 7-ish weeks to try and get appropriation bills done, and to keep it clean. I mean, I think if there's be a few anomalies that the Democrats and Republicans both want, but I think if it's clean in a way that both sides can say neither side is trying to game this or get something in here, that we ought to be able at least to do an extension that will enable us to do the regular order process. My view on this has always been, and I continue to share it, the best way to fund the government is through the normal appropriations process. So if you're doing a year-long CR or a series of CRs or an omni, which means it's being written by a handful of people behind closed doors, that's not good. And I think we've seen some evidence of that in the last few years. And so my goal has been to change that. And so what we try to do is enable and empower the appropriators. So the various chairs of the relevant committees, so Susan Collins in the Senate, Patty Murray is the ranking Democrat, Tom Cole and Rosa DeLauro in the House, have been talking. They call them the so-called Big Four, and trying to come to a place where we can actually move bills and hopefully conference them, reconcile the differences, and make them law that way rather than doing it the other way, which I think gets everybody frustrated.
Yeah, and I want to ask you to not put your pundit hat on, but help us read Chuck Schumer, who this morning said, and I was just talking to someone in the House Republican leadership after hearing these comments, and it sounds like they are taking the repeal Obamacare tack, right? They are saying if we don't get something on healthcare, we're out. Meaning, to me, they won't say it directly, but to me, I read that as like, they're not going to help you with a clean CR. I mean, is that your read on the situation?
Well, I mean, I think it's going to be hard for them to sustain that position. Yeah, I think that's where he's going. I think he's trying to leverage and he's looking for a reason. Frankly, this is my read of the tea leaves, so I'm going to play.
Well, we all read tea leaves, don't we?
Yeah, punt it for a moment here, but
please do.
I think that they see it as politically advantageous to have a shutdown. I think that their base is clamoring for that. They want to fight with the Trump administration, but they don't have a good reason to do it. And I don't intend to give them a good reason to do it.
And neither does Johnson at this point, it doesn't seem, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think, that's what I'm saying. We're talking about a relatively clean CR for a certain amount of time to enable the normal appropriations process to work, which I think we all should be for. Now, what they're trying to do is leverage the premium tax credits under Obamacare, which were enhanced twice, to go. And if we don't do something, it would go back to the pre-pandemic level.
Yes.
So
Right.
post-COVID,
Right.
This was all done. So you go back to the pre-COVID levels, they'd still be there. I mean, you still got Obamacare subsidies, premium tax credits for people to get insurance, but they wouldn't be the enhanced level that you see now. So the question is, how do you deal with that? Because those premium notices go out here in the next few weeks.
And you have your own members who are
got-
concerned. I mean, this isn't just Democrats on this issue, right? Because the notices are going to go around across the country.
Yeah, and I think I suspect at some point the White House is going to weigh in on this. So,
And how do you think they view it?
well, I mean, I think that my view is, and I know this is, and we're going to have mixed views, and that will probably determine and drive. I think it will in the House as well as the Senate, where we land on this, and so maybe there's something we can do that is something in the middle as a solution.
But not on a 7-week CR.
Not on a 7-week CR. No. I mean, I think this is an issue that will get dealt with in some way. I mean, whether we do anything or don't do anything, and we got a lot of people, and I'm kind of in the camp of those were plus ups for COVID, and we got a serious problem that's going to cost us over $300 billion to fix this if we stay at those enhanced levels. But we've got people who are in different camps on that.
Now, we love getting into the nerdy procedural stuff. So you can't talk about, you can, but I don't know that any network would be interested in having you talk about Senate rules changes.
But we are right here at Punchbowl News.
Andrew has been writing about this before I was even.
Your ratings really go up because your audience is like spiking.
Exactly.
But I mean, you're taking a big step to change the Senate's rules to make it easier for you guys to confirm sub-cabinet level appointees. And so I wanted you to talk about that, but also like when the shoe's on the other foot, I mean, how much do you worry about this? I mean, that's the ultimate question when you change the rules. I mean, you'll be in the majority, you hope not anytime soon, but at some point you will be. So talk about that for me.
I mean, that all, as you all know, changes very quickly. When I got to the Senate in 2005, we were at the high water mark. We had 55 Republican seats, never been there before. And we were talking about getting to 60 in 2006. And by 2006, we're back in the minority. So, that's how quickly
I remember the permanent
changes.
Republican majority.
Yeah.
Not so permanent.
Yeah, not so permanent. So yeah, you have to think through what that looks like, and when the shoe's on the other foot. And we tried to do that, but I mean, we're in a spot right now that we just can't sustain. I mean, to even get through the current backlog between now and the end of the year would be 600 votes, and we've cast 500 this year already, over 500, which is a record by far. I mean, there isn't a Congress that's even close, and or Senate that's even close. So we can't just be in a 24/7 human relations or human resources business. We have to be, we're a personnel department right now, and we've got to get away from that. But, doing that, I just had a conversation with Schumer on the floor. There are a lot of his members who are approaching our members about adopting something along the lines of the Klobuchar-King proposal, which was an en bloc by committee. And we're open to that. I mean, we would take a deal like that. But the question is, can they get consent to offer it? And I think that's going to be problematic for them.
Be tough. All right, I want to change gears a little bit. Tariffs. You are no fan of it as an egg state. Not surprising.
This is the Dakota thing.
I said this is my question.
Hey, every once in a while we agree on something.
North and
That'll
south.
change when the Bison play the Jackrabbits.
I mean, for sure. Come on, go Bison. But talk about tariffs. Will things get better before the election? Have you thought at all about what that means if the court overturns Trump's tariffs?
That's a big unknown at this point, big if. But I think the court will have something to say about it. And what does that then? What's that look like? There are specific statutory authorities that they're claiming, and there are things. There have been times through the years where Congress has relinquished, if you will, some of its authority over this issue. And historically, constitutionally, trade and tariffs fall under the Article 1 branch of the government. And I'd like to have more of it there, frankly. But I do think what this ultimately looks like, we don't know yet. I mean, I think there's an argument, and that at some point, tariff costs do get passed on in the economy.
Yeah.
The administration's arguing vehemently that they're not going to, and I don't know at this point who's going to be right, who's going to be wrong. What I can tell you is
we're seeing evidence that it is.
Yeah,
they are.
Sure, it's starting.
I mean, it's yeah. So, but in representing an ag state, this has very direct consequences, particularly with regard to Asia, because that's such a big market. I mean, 60% of South Dakota's soybeans are exported, and mostly to China, and that market's now shut down. So we're going to have some real issues in farm country with regard to trade and markets more generally.
Let's talk about something about very quickly, and then we have to go into our lightning round before we get the hook from our bosses. The Federal Reserve is something that we found ourselves talking about a lot. You are going to confirm what is being positioned as a temporary appointment to the Federal Reserve Board of Governors. You just filed cloture today. It's clear that Trump doesn't really care about the independence of the Fed in the traditional sense, right? I mean, like, we could argue the level at which he cares, but he doesn't care. Really, doesn't seem like. How much does this whole new shape of the Fed and economic policy concern you? How much time do you spend thinking about this?
Well, I mean, I think that obviously our role is fiscal policy. That's where the Congress comes into play. The monetary policy is the bank, the Federal Reserve, and it was designed that way for a reason, and that's to keep the political arm of our government from sort of messing and interfering when it comes to shaping monetary policy. And that's frankly the way, in my view, it should be. And I don't, so I think that, obviously these have terms, and when they come up, then the president can nominate people, and Senate, it's the advice and consent role that we have, which is what we're doing with the current nominee. But I just think that it's really important that the Fed's independence be preserved, that it not be intertwined in politics and become something that is susceptible to the winds of politics, because those are constantly changing. And I think you want people who are looking in a clear-eyed way at the economy and what are the best things that we can do to set us up for success in the future when it comes to inflation and unemployment and the things that the Fed's supposed to pay attention to.
All right, we're going to get into the lightning round. Yes or no? Will Republicans keep the Senate majority?
Of course I have to say yes. Well, and because I don't know about your heritage, but I'm Scandinavian, Norwegian, and most of North and South Dakota were at one time, still are. So I have this. I tell people, I believe life is supposed to be hard, and I always kind of tend to look at the glass half empty rather than half full. But that being said, I mean, I think we're well positioned. I mean, we've got a map, we've got some vulnerabilities for sure, and we've got to protect Susan Collins, and we got an open seat in North Carolina that's going to be very competitive and expensive, but we got a great candidate there, and I think we got a couple of good.
Is John Cornyn going to be the candidate?
Yes, yeah, he will be. Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about one more thing. Why do so many people say no to running for the Senate? you've had you have some good candidates for sure. You have some people that could win, but I mean, you couldn't get Brian Kemp in. You couldn't get a bunch of people in to run. I mean, this job, don't you tell them how great this job is, how easy it is, and how non-stressful it actually is?
They obviously have made their own conclusions. That's what I was saying.
They've turned on the television.
Talk to people that have held it. But in some cases, you got governors, and governors have they love being governor. And the Senate's a very different place. I mean, it's a collegial body, and you got to get along with 99 other people when you get here, or even on our side of the aisle, 52 other people. So it's a personal decision for a lot of them, and these races tend to be too, especially if you're a governor. Governors have an image because they are able to solve problems, and it's an executive role. Tend to have a lot higher approval ratings. People like them. And that tends to be across the political, both sides of the political aisle in many cases. The Senate is become a very partisan office and senator. And I think part of that, again, is it reflects the politics of the country today. Whereas in a state, you have a way of shaping kind of the narrative there and doing a lot of things that benefit a lot of people.
Let's talk about, it was our last lightning round question before we get the hook.
We're really getting the hook.
Anna has been spotted around Capitol Hill working out with a weighted vest.
I'm in my weighted vest era. I would just, everyone,
I work out
18 pounds, you just get 5 miles in, it's good.
I work out at 5:30 in the morning. I won't reveal my routine because it's patented.
Well, it's working, buddy. I bet you. He's an Adonis, don't you think?
That's right. That's right. Something like that. Well, how do you used to run around the mall? What is your workout routine now?
Well, my knees I've had this knee scope 4 times, this one once, and the last time the surgeon said, the next time you do this, it's going to be a replacement. So I kind of want to keep the original equipment. So I've had to dial back the running. And I'm more do a bike more now, either stationary or back in South Dakota, actually riding around on a bike.
Not a Peloton person?
I have tried Peloton. I don't have one, and I should get one probably. They're a little spendy, but they've been coming down.
Yes, I'm
Are you Peloton?
highly recommend, because you can then take it on your app and do all kinds of workouts.
Yes, yeah, and
your detail will like that better than you like riding around on your bike. Your idea too.
Well, but I have different routines, different days, and some involves free weights, some involves machines, some of natural stuff, crunches, push-ups, things like that. So I mix it up just because you can really get in a rut if you don't.
All right, we are going to leave it there. Leader Thune, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Anna. Thanks, Jake. Good to be with you.
Meta is investing in American innovation, and through its data centers, has supported tens of thousands of construction jobs across the country, boosting local economies and investing in communities. Meta just announced its latest data center to come online. It's in Kansas City. It's part of an overall investment of more than $1 billion in the state of Missouri, and supported more than 1,500 skilled trade worker jobs, because American progress starts with people. Well, we could barely pull Andrew and Annie away from the Capitol, but we are glad that you're both here to join us. And thankfully, we are so close.
Yeah. But we have to get midday out pretty soon. So, Andrew, I hope you've AI this in some way.
I can clone myself. Then I can stake out Thune in multiple places when he comes in and out of the Capitol.
I like this. All right. We just sat down with Senate Majority Leader John Thune. He had a lot to say. It was a very newsy interview. I'm going to ask you all kind of top takeaways. Andrew, I'll go with you first. You are kind of the Thune whisperer. You spent a lot of time thinking, talking to him and his team.
Mm-hmm. I think my big takeaway was, number one, he basically said that there's probably going to be a shutdown as long as Democrats maintain their posture, right?
Let's not bury the lead.
He said it very calmly, though.
Yeah, he said it. I think Democrats want a shutdown. And by the way, at this point, it seems like that's where we're heading.
And I think your comparison to the repeal Obamacare issue from 2013, 2015, et cetera, was the right one, because at the time, it was Republicans saying, we're not going to fund the government unless you do this unrelated thing that you would never want to do anyway. And Democrats this time are saying, we're not going to fund the government unless you do this thing that you're never going to do, which is repeal the Medicaid cuts in the big, beautiful bill, right? I mean, it's a I don't want to say completely unreasonable position to take, but it is an unreasonable position to take on a funding bill. Now, if you look at it from the perspective of Senate Democrats, and I know we'll talk more about this, they think that, okay, why would we continue to fund Trump's government when Trump is doing pocket rescissions, doing all these things that undermine Congress's power of the purse?
Annie, what was your take?
Yeah, I mean, what he actually said was, he said politically Democrats want a shutdown. And I don't think he's totally wrong. Like, I think they don't want, I think they don't have, it's two bad options, but I think look, Schumer has never fully recovered from March, right? Like politically. He chose to keep the government open, and he had plenty of, on the merits, like good reasons. Like you could argue, you could agree or disagree, but there was a good argument. And still he just got decimated politically.
Totally.
So, and we're seeing a lot of Democrats who voted with Schumer, like Brian Schatz, who are now saying we're not going to do that again. So I don't know that they politically want a shutdown, but they know they can't afford to do what they did in March, I think.
Yeah, can't have round two, right? They just, a repeat performance is not
So
going to work.
I think that's right. The other takeaway, actually, this is a question for you who follows the Senate a little more carefully than I do, which is on the confirmations. He said that he spoke to Schumer this morning on the floor about, and that there was openness to doing the Klobuchar King.
Yeah.
Talk about that, Andy.
Well, so what?
That's sort of
That
interesting.
flew under the radar a little bit. I know it's like procedural.
Flyout day, radar, we're
Exactly,
full of
yeah.
aviation.
It's perfect. No, but seriously, so the proposal they're doing is based on Klobuchar King, right? Except Republicans are expanding it because they're not putting a cap on the number of noms you can include in a package, and they're not requiring that they all come from the same committee. When he says Klobuchar King, and that Democrats have approached him about that, what he's been saying all week is that Democrats can avoid what we're doing today if they come to the table and we negotiate on a bipartisan sort of rules change, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, that's not going to happen. Democrats can't be seen as greasing the skids, helping Trump's nominees get confirmed in any form or fashion.
That's already not great for Schumer, that he's like, Schumer was saying he's over
Right.
to it, but maybe he couldn't.
But at the same
couldn't get the
time,
votes. Yeah.
Democrats, if you just talk to them frankly, and if they talk to you frankly, they acknowledge that this change is long overdue. They're fine with it, right? They're issuing cursory statements saying, "Oh, this is so bad," right? But in reality, they're cool with it.
All right, I want to shift gears. On a serious note, right, the killing of Charlie Kirk, we are seeing a lot of this morning, AOC saying she's not going to do outdoor rallies. She's canceling one that was over the weekend. We were seeing some posture changing with lawmakers that we haven't seen kind of historically when there has been some of these horrific attempts, and when, President Trump, the attempted assassination on his life. What does this change anything on Capitol? Is there going to be legislation? Is it just kind of the nervousness of members with their own safety that you're kind of sensing a change on?
I mean, one thing I feel confident in saying, there won't be gun control legislation, not in a Republican control.
No.
Unless Trump somehow says we need to do this now, and even then, I think it's very.
But I think that will be the next fight that we see. We saw it yesterday on the House floor. There was an eruption of Lauren Boebert wanted them to do a prayer, and Democrats started shouting what about passing a bill? So I think we will see shutting down events, and I think members are legitimately frightened all the time.
And I think when we talk about member security, it's often this just abstract concept, right? But they can do something in the legislative branch appropriations bill, right? They can do specific things on this to make lawmakers feel more comfortable with doing these events, with engaging more directly with their constituents. But again, I mean, dating back to the attempted killing of Gabby Giffords in 2011, right? What was she doing when she was shot? She was at a constituent event doing a meet and greet, right?
The scariest thing for members is that outside of leadership, they don't have security.
Right. And Johnson said this morning, I was talking to him about this with a group of other reporters in a gaggle. He said, we have a pilot program. They do. They have a pilot program in which the House pays back for security charges. They have an office that will coordinate with your local police department. And he said, he's like, if we were to give every member of Congress a security detail, every member of the House, it would cost billions of dollars, and we need to hire 5,000 more police officers.
Also,
It's
it
not
doesn't.
feasible.
Also, Charlie Kirk had security.
Right.
Like it's no.
So did Steve
guarantee.
Scalise.
Yeah.
I mean, this is
And so did Donald Trump, by the way, when he was
And not
was
only
shot
did Donald
last
Trump,
year.
he had
it's just really
a major detail.
Right, exactly. And that couldn't stop at the time, an attempted assassin.
Let's move on to the Big Mad Index. This is a fun one, guys. This is a tool we use at Punchbowl News to gauge the mood on Capitol Hill. We first rolled it out during reconciliation to track potential holdouts, their priorities, and how they moved behind the scenes in negotiations. Jake, you had a very interesting Big Mad experience this week.
Yeah, Andy Harris was mad because he said, we were talking about these Obamacare subsidies, which, by the way, is a major, major issue, not only for this funding bill, but up until December, as we talked about before. And he said he started screaming at me that COVID was over, which I am aware of. And he said that we don't talk about this the right way. It's all about COVID, and we should always mention your hands because of COVID, which I think we do. But anyway, he might have another idea. I said, if you find any, I'll make a bet. I'll give you $100 if you find any time we haven't said that. But that deal is not open to anyone else. Actually, it is expired for Andy Harris as well.
All right. Annie, what's happening in your world? In the Big Mad world.
In the Big Mad world, I sat through a long oversight hearing in the House yesterday where they were marking up the bills to federalize D.C. And mostly I was watching Eleanor Holmes Norton, who, it was a horrible, it was just depressing to watch her not be able to lead the conversation there at all. But who did lead the conversation was Maxwell Frost, who yelled at Clay Higgins saying, "You're a lapdog of the president." And then Clay Higgins got really mad and had him strike his words from the record. And Comer had to recess because he didn't know what to do. Comer often really loses control of that committee.
Yeah. The House of Representatives.
Second week in a row on flyout day that Eleanor Holmes Norton and her inability to kind of really perform the job at the expectation level when DC is top of the news is coming to the fore.
Anna's story this morning laid that out, that this should be the moment for Eleanor Holmes Norton.
Yeah, and I mean, I just wrote that story today. It's a pretty brutal story. You can read it in the New York Times today.
Heard of it.
But I literally just wrote what I witnessed. It's just blatant. You don't have to. You just write what you see with your eyes, and it's pretty rough.
Yeah, the deterioration is tough to watch. Andrew?
So I know we've been talking a lot about Senate Democrats being angry, big mad about these demands that they are making related to government funding. But I do want to mention Senator John Kennedy, a Republican from Louisiana. I talked to him yesterday about the Russia sanctions bill, long-stalled Russia sanctions bill. Leader Thune indicated earlier this week that given Russia's escalations, those drones going into Poland, that clearly there needs to be more done as it relates to sort of pushing back on Russia and making sure there are consequences for this behavior. And he keeps praising the bill, saying it's great, we want to do this, but then stops short by saying, well, the White House hasn't given us the green light yet. And so I asked Senator Kennedy about Leader Thune's assessment there, and he said something along the lines of, well, I respect John a lot, but if you like the bill so much, put the damn bill on the floor. And he was deathly serious. He was very stern when I talked to him about it. And I think
a
it's
PG-13 rating, Anna.
I think so. Yeah.
But for him, I mean, he's usually a quick turn of phrase and jovial and kind of making points, but not aggressive.
He's reflecting the frustration, I would say, and the fact that Republicans in the Senate, in particular, are losing patience over this issue because they feel like, why are we just sitting back and letting Putin escalate, especially after Trump has made so many overtures to him in this so-called peace process.
All right, Annie, Andrew, we're going to leave it there. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll let you get back to the Hill, and hopefully we'll have you back on the show soon.
And finish midday.
Yes.
Max Cohen.
Max.
Now, what can we say about Max, Jake?
We could say a few things. We could say that we interviewed him during COVID.
That's true.
When he was a young buck. He's still
very youthful, though.
He's still a young buck. We interviewed him virtually. Was employee what, Max? 5, 6?
5. I'll take 5.
5. That's amazing. And since we started with 4, that was pretty early.
Early days. Well, Max wears many hats, but you know and love him for the readback and the Power Matrix.
So if you have any problems with the Power Matrix, let me just give back.
This is your guy.
No, don't listen. No.
John Bresnan.
Rez at Punchbowl.news.
I love it. All right. Well, the Power Matrix is one of the favorite features that we have been doing at Punchbowl News for a very long time. It's the 3 lawmakers or people in politics who are up and down. You are giving us a sneak peek today. Who is up?
Who's up this week is going to be Texas State Representative James Tallarico.
Yep.
He's a Democrat from the Austin area, and he just launched his Senate campaign. In the first 12 hours, he raised over $1 million for his campaign. Texas, as you guys know, big state. You need all of that money to compete.
And now I'll say this. You've heard me say this. Max, you definitely heard me say this. Nightmare scenario for Republicans is for, John Thune and the NRSC and the Super PAC is that Ken Paxton's a nominee. Democrats have a good nominee who could raise a lot of money. A ton of money goes into the state. Democratic turnout is up, and it becomes a contest. And that could be, Max, $1 billion Senate race in the state of Texas.
Yeah, 100%. This is not where Republicans thought they would be spending. That Republican primary, Paxton versus Cornyn, is taking on a lot of energy and a lot of money. And Tallarico, in his launch, is giving Democrats what they've been asking for, which is, quote, a fighter. He says, I'm going to take the fight to D.C. I'm not going to be your traditional Democrat. That's what the base is crying out for. We'll see if he can be Colin Allred in that primary, though.
All right. Who's down?
I can't give it all away, Anna. You're going to have to stay tuned until Friday.
So we'll be doing this Friday afternoon when everybody is tired from the week and just wants to go home. But we will be doing it tomorrow.
All right. Well, that is our show for this week. Thank you to Leader Thune, Andrew Desiderio, Annie Carney, and of course, our very own Max Cohen.
And thank you all for watching. If you like what you saw, hit subscribe, smash it, as the kids say, as Max says, and join us every Thursday right here at the Punchbowl News Townhouse.
We'll see you next Flyout Day with another newsy guest. Stay safe, everybody.